Hey folks, Lauren Riddick back again with our Homes and Loans podcast, making a positive difference through collaboration. This is a very, very special friend that I have with us today and business partner, Mr. David Scott Landis of the appraisal firm.
How you doing, sir?
By way of Farragut High School.
Yeah, of course.
That's right.
Loved, hated, but never ignored.
Had some battles, man. Had some battles. David, it's great to see you, man.
Good to see you,
Love you, brother. Man, look, this guy, we go back a long, long way. And, we're going to have a good time today. And Dave, I appreciate you. We always have a chance to get together. And, when we do our podcast, the first session is we're going to go all the way back to, being born and maybe some of those childhood memories that still stick with you. Then our second session is talking more, how you got into your business and all those kinds of things. And then the third is just mindset. How do we get through those tough times, and adversity? And obviously we got some stuff to talk about there. But man, it's great to see you, buddy.
Been through a few things, but it's good to see you as well.
Yeah, man. We'll talk off camera about our boy Crawford and the best Italian and all that kind of stuff. But David and I, we go way back. And like I said, he's got a lot of respect for David. He's a businessman, entrepreneur. Man, it's hard to believe, David. Really, our business relationship is over 25 years. Mm-hmm. And our personal relationship even predates that.
It's going to be 32 years.
Yes, man. And but no, David, world class. He's the owner of the appraisal firm, and many other things. Have a recent venture, Attorney Knox, that you do with your lovely wife Yvanka. Shout out to Yvanka Landis. But man, it's just good to see you, my friend.
It's good to be seen.
It is good to be seen. Let's jump right in, man. Let's talk about what's some of the early memories. I don't even know if I ever even asked you what city you were born in. Let's go all the way back.
I'm from Pittsburgh.
Okay.
I'm from Pennsylvania. I was there in the 70s when, everything was Steelers, Pirates, Penguins when we won championships. Still do, but not as quick.
Oh, no, so that's the Iron Curtain. Steel Curtain, right? Steel Curtain.
We Are Family.
We Are Family. The
Pirates with Willie Stargell and Dave Parker.
And who was is that Willie Stargell to get up and do his thing?
Pops, Willie Stargell.
Kent DeColvey, pitcher.
That's the name. I actually looked that guy up a couple weeks ago. Yeah, so I lived through all that. That's my earliest memories are probably watching Steelers games on TV with my dad and going to the Pirates games and Pitt Panthers games.
Okay.
So Dan Marino play.
Okay.
When I was really young, I guess I was probably in grade school by that point. But so I got to see a lot of that.
So is that coming up with just one of my, I like those, I'm a Tom Cruise fan. I'm not just a groupie, but All the Right Moves, and Pop, which was a, fictitious steel town. What memories maybe come to mind that, growing up in that, obviously the winter's a little more harsh.
Well, first off.
Heck of a snowman y'all probably had.
The All the Right Moves movie, there is such a rich football culture in Western Pennsylvania. Joe Montana, Dan Marino, Dick Butkus, all these people. There's dozens of others that are from that little pocket of Western Pennsylvania. So that part I actually didn't realize until I was older and got away. But as far as growing up in the city, we were on the outside of the city, but when we went downtown, it was before everything got cleaned up. There was a revitalization, rejuvenation of Pittsburgh happening midway through the 80s, and it ended up being one of the quote-unquote most livable cities. But before that, it was the tail end of the steel era, and everything seemed dark, dirty. You go downtown, you see the stacks blowing from the steel mills, and all that. So everything that you saw in those 70s and early 80s movies about, towns like Pittsburgh and Birmingham and Toledo, all those things are actually kind of true. And you don't realize it when you're seeing it, but historically looking back on it, it's really cool. And then the snow, people ask me all the time, would you move back to Pittsburgh? I love to go back and visit, but I only go back and visit between the months of April and probably October.
Because coming off that water, I'm sure it's even more of a hawk to coming off.
I was home, the last time I was home during the winter was the year 2000, 1999 winter, going into 2000. And I had this bright idea to go downtown on Christmas Day. And the wind whipping through those buildings, the high for the day was 0. And the minute you get out of the car and the wind's whipping through those downtown buildings and there's nobody down there because it's deserted, it makes you really question what the heck were you thinking.
Oh, wow.
I mean, I just remember stepping out and it was just pain on my face. So I will.
As a little fella.
No, this is I'm 30 years old.
Oh, okay. Going back to visit.
Yeah, so I won't go back, obviously during winter months, cold months. And I will never move back to Pittsburgh. As much as I love it, I will never move back. East Tennessee is about right. I tell people all the time, God did really well with East Tennessee. We've got a little bit of everything. But most of all, especially when you're driving to Blount County, you see those mountains and everything. East Tennessee is right.
Now, do you have, if you go back to early memories, any family reunions or any, grandmothers up there, any old memories that come to mind that kind of just stick with you?
Full of them, but my family, my mom and dad are actually from Eastern Pennsylvania, 45 minutes an hour outside of Philadelphia. My mom was from a small town called Lansdale, and my dad was from a farm community town called Sellersville, and that my grandparents had a farm. So as far as travel outside of Pittsburgh, that's probably the first thing that I remember, is my grandparents' farm.
Now, did you do some work on the farm?
I did.
Okay. What was your chores?
I had to go out and help my granddad, weed some of the farms, some of the fields, cultivate them is what he called it. He had a little cultivator on the back of his 1930-something John Deere L tractor.
Okay.
That I learned to drive on, by the way.
Was that a two-stroke?
Yep. That's
the wheels in the front real close.
Yep. I learned to drive on that. That's one of my greatest memories. And then they got me out there baling hay. And it wasn't,
Dude, I didn't know you were working baling hay, buddy.
But, if you did any of that, that 40 years ago, it wasn't a big round baler with a tractor and a prong.
Yeah.
It was a bunch of guys chasing a wagon through a field.
Right.
So, and of course, I wasn't big enough to drive the wagon. So I'm out there trying to pick up these.
And now you're in this, and of course that has to be in the summer.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So you got some heat going on, and a lot of people think that when you're in hay, it's 100 degrees, 90 degrees, you're wearing shorts and no shirt.
Mm-hmm.
No, long pants. Yeah, long pants, long shirts,
and heavy gloves.
Heavy gloves.
That twine's going to rip your fingers apart.
Yeah.
But yeah, so chasing that wagon through the field was the first job I had, and I think my granddaddy paid me about a nickel a bale or something like that. Come to find out, all the other help was getting like 15, 20 cents a bale.
He didn't take advantage a little bit there.
No.
Any words when you're out working with him that he would say? Any slogans that?
My granddaddy was very much like my dad. First off, I'm adopted.
Right.
So I was raised by a white family. But they were both very stoic, didn't have much to say. And it wasn't so much that, obviously, what they said or didn't say that really left an impact on me. It's what they did. They just did it.
Yeah.
It was never up, down, oh, it's emotional, oh, it's stressed. No. It always appeared like this. Mm-hmm. Now, behind the scenes, things may have been going haywire, but they both...
Like that duck going across the water, the feet's going crazy, but it's smooth.
So, but one of the things that I remember is they always had an even keel, an outward showing of stability. And that probably, I've gone through some things in life, and I've got my own family and everything, and I try to keep that in the back of my head. Nobody needs to know exactly what's going on the outside. Nobody needs to see the stress, because my household, my four walls, needs to put on a united front.
That's awesome.
We might invite some people into what's going on or inner workings, whatever. But on the outside to the general public, it's going always to be something very stable.
That's a great gold nugget, man.
And that's something that I took from my grandparents and my dad.
That's awesome.
And my grandma, bless her heart, I thought back and I've thought and I've thought and I've thought, and I've talked to my older sister about this. I never heard my grandmother say a bad word about anybody.
Even burn her hand on the stove, man. Matthew Mark.
I'd never hear her say, well, Lauren's ugly. I don't like that Lauren Riddick guy. I would never hear her say that about anybody. She always found something nice to say about people. Never heard her speak ill about anybody. And that's one thing about my grandmother that always stuck out. And the food.
Oh, that's awesome, man. That's
but
awesome.
Yeah, so that's one thing. And I strive to be like my grandparents, but it doesn't always happen.
Man, well, as you mentioned that, Dave, I have to say, man, honestly, of all my friends and partners, there's no one that is more, stay the course.
Trying to be. A good friend of mine once told me that no matter what happens, they can't eat you.
Who told you that?
I don't know,
And me.
So, and I got
that from my uncle.
I've held that nugget back there. So regardless of what's going on, I try not to get too bent out of shape, because at the end of the day, they can't eat you.
So when you talk a little bit about when you made the transition from Pittsburgh to Knoxville, Farragut. Because I'd love to hear that.
Well, Pittsburgh was interesting because being adopted by a white family, you're not quite white enough for the black kids. I mean, for the white kids, and you're too white for the black kids. And then you move down here. Well, let me back up a step. In Pittsburgh, and a lot of small towns in the north, in heavily populated areas, there's boroughs and townships and villages, and if the entire village or township or borough is not a particular way, there are sections that are, and those sections are Protestant, Catholic, Jewish, Irish, Polish, Italian. So we lived on a street. My family.
Lots of ethnicity groups, where here is white and black.
Well, what happens is things are segregated amongst those different groups in Pittsburgh, or they were back in the 70s and 80s. And, so like on my street, the white kids and the black kids, we would all play together a little bit. But the Catholic kids didn't really play with the white kids. They didn't go to school with the Protestant kids. Catholic kids, not white kids. The Catholic kids didn't play with the Protestant kids so much. There's a couple of Jewish kids. They all went to their own temple. They didn't go to public schools. Catholic kids went to private Catholic schools. So everything was very divided and segregated in that manner. People say, "Oh, you're a preacher in Tennessee. What's that like? Don't you run into problems being black?" I'm like, "Oh, there's stupid people everywhere." But I grew up in a place that was very segregated, and not necessarily just by race. But then I moved to Tennessee, and I lived in West Knoxville, and I didn't see hardly anybody that looked like me. I was in the Farragut school systems. There was definitely less than 10 kids per grade that looked like me. Probably even less than 5. And in most of my classes, I'd be the only black kid in the class. And that was an adjustment, because I never really thought that even though things were more divided in Pittsburgh, I never really felt like a spot in a room.
Mm-hmm.
And that was something that took some getting used to. And I'm better for it now, but I don't know if you remember middle school. Middle school's tough.
Right. Middle
school is cruel. Those kids are just mean for whatever reason. If you're tall, they're going to make fun of you. If you're short, they're going to make fun of you.
Right.
So they're going to find something. And I gave them several things to pick on me for. So gladly I made it out of that, and I found my peer group through basketball and a couple other things. But yeah, the initial transition from the north to the south wasn't so much a black-white thing. It was just more of a I don't quite fit in thing. It wasn't a, hey, we're going to be mean to you because we're black. It's just, hey, you don't fit in.
So I guess one thing, though, as you mentioned that, and we'll get in the second segment in a minute with your career, but you talk about your praising.
Mm-hmm.
There's probably a degree of familiarity when you do go, especially all people moving in here. You can probably see, oh, that person's, Polish, or this person's Catholic, or this person's. Do you feel that?
I was young enough to where I didn't pick up on the nuances from one ethnicity to the other. but the names, the accents,
Right.
you know,
You ever run into anybody from Pittsburgh when you're?
I did an appraisal in Avalon, and they had Steelers paraphernalia everywhere. And I'm from Pittsburgh. I'm actually from a small town, you know, just 10 miles east of Pittsburgh called Monroeville. Oh, my sister and her family, or my niece and her family are from Monroeville. And come to find out, I knew I would have graduated with her niece, her great niece, I guess. And she lived on the street right behind me. We were in several classes.
That's
together.
cool.
So here I am, moved, you know, however many 600-700 miles.
Right.
And you know, I go do an appraisal 15 minutes from my house here in Knoxville, and I meet somebody whose family literally lived a block from me. We used to cut through their yard. We used to play together. So
That's
that
awesome.
was cool. But yeah, I see people from Pittsburgh all the time.
Now you were talking about basketball.
Mm-hmm.
And again, this guy, heart of gold. You know, we did for 20 years, we did a Stars of Tomorrow basketball camp, and Dave didn't hardly ever miss any. And you were at the first one ever that we had out here on the skillet. It was so hot.
Died.
Yeah, it was so hot.
Man, I got burnt so bad. I got burnt. You know, that was back when I still wear a tank top.
Yeah, man. That was 99. That was the first year. But you played basketball as Coach Sexton?
Sexton a little bit, and Edwards. Mike Edwards.
Mike Edwards.
Your dad knows both of them.
Yeah. Now, what year did you graduate high school?
92.
92, okay.
Sexton retired in 91.
Okay. That was a switch. That was a, do you want to, I mean, we're probably past the statute of limitations, but I mean, my thought would be Sexton was a lot like Coach Bill Wallace. Both of them, God rest their soul, old school, you know.
Sexton's still alive.
Oh, is he?
Mm-hmm.
Nose to the grindstone, and Edwards, played at UT, and fast-paced more fast-paced game.
I was never actually coached by Sexton because I wasn't on varsity.
Gotcha.
But it's still through the program. So I practice and whatnot, tryouts and all that. Yeah, we were there with Sexton. And Sexton was one way, we all thought it was terrible. Oh, God, this old guy, blah, blah, blah. No, we're going to keep this tempo, no transition, blah, blah, blah. Ran a flex offense, which I hated. 5 passes, all this stuff. You remember flex offense.
Oh, yeah.
It's really monotonous.
Yes.
But then Edwards comes in. We, my senior year at varsity, we're running through teams during team camp up here at Maryville College. First time I met Kelvin. Team camp out in Oak Ridge. We're blowing teams out. I'm starting. I'm balling. Season comes. That guy thought he was Bobby Knight, and he's a really.
He changed it up.
Did he ever?
Oh, he just eased into it, but then he
just
flipped the
that
script
side.
on you guys when the season came.
Preseason, he tried to kill us with conditioning, but whatever. But then we got in the season came, and it's like,
who is this guy?
This ain't the same guy. But what I learned from some players that he really turned into real players. I was just a fringe guy, but that he really took those players under wraps and prepared them for the next level. A lot of his players, he had some good ties to Coach Lambert out here. So a lot of his players ended up out here at Maryville College.
Okay,
And, my friend group and people I played ball with for years after that, a lot of that matriculated down to what I had going on in my life and the years after.
Now, we definitely can't transition to the business part until we talk about one more thing about basketball.
What's that?
You had the very, very rare experience, if it's coming back in my brain, that you actually, when you went to the University of Tennessee, that you actually had a working relationship with the Lady Vols.
I did.
And Pat Summit.
I did. Briefly with Kevin O'Neill too, but primarily with the Lady Vols.
And for those that no one really needs to know about, surely everybody knows who Pat Head Summit, like the goddess of all coaching, male or female. She's amazing, but you had the chance to be in that program, and
she was basically my coach. Fall 92, a woman that had coached me during the summer league saw me on campus. She said, "Hey, I'm the team psychologist. I need you to come to a meeting. And lo and behold, it's a meeting to field the first ever men's practice team for the Lady Vols. And of course,
Wow.
I didn't turn
Which was unheard of.
No, and you know, I could have gone to some Division III schools coming out of school. Nothing, you know, nothing serious. And I was too lazy, and I didn't see a value in it. It's not that I was.
So you had some game.
So
You get to the hole now. You're slippery.
But it's not that I was so wise to know that something bigger was coming. It's just I probably was too lazy. And, nothing's going to come of it. I'm not going there. I'm going to go where all my friends are going to school and party. But then I got involved with that, and I got several of the people I played ball with at Farragut over the years. So it was like 3 or 4 kids from Farragut, a couple friends that I met on campus, and then Pat's nephew, David.
You guys had to have helped them a lot. I mean, that's a whole other realm.
And there's this, and Pat is, what, 10 years later, I'm a nobody in Pat's world. 15 years later, I'm a nobody in Pat had so much world, right? I'm driving down Alcoa Highway, and there's this Mercedes flashing its lights behind me and pulls up next to me. I'm like, oh God, what did I do? Who's trying to cut me off, whatever. It was Coach Sullivan. She's, hey, David. I'm like, me? Yeah, I was really
That's
impressed.
awesome.
I was really impressed by that. But you know, she coached us. If we were, you know, sloughing off in practice, we heard about it. If we made stupid mistakes, we heard. We learned her basketball philosophy. You know, because we were either the defense or we were playing, you know, an offense playing against her defense.
So, Dave, let me ask you this. Just I've never asked you this.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't even know the politically correct way to ask it.
But
if you just play,
let me stop you.
How good are they?
Vanderbilt plays Tennessee in football weekend after Thanksgiving, or, you know, depends on how it falls, right around there. Vanderbilt Tennessee football was kicking off at 10 o'clock. We had practice with the Lady Vols that morning at like 9 o'clock. And it wasn't practice, it was a full scrimmage. The doors to Thompson Bowling were open. You know they've got the parking lot right there. Everybody tailgates for football games. The doors, upstairs doors to Thompson Bowling were open. We ended up getting fans, and they're probably, you know, 1,000, 2,000 fans maybe, whatever. We're just watching. We got booed. The men got booed.
Because you were beating them to death?
Not necessarily to death, but handedly. I'll say that much.
Okay. With all due respect to the lady game.
They are so much better fundamentally.
Yeah.
Shooting, ball handling, mentality.
Yeah.
They are so much better. But the physical gap.
The diesel.
The physical gap between speed, strength, and size it's not surmountable for, especially back then. Women's basketball's come a long way.
Right.
But, you know, you think about, you know, 30 years ago, 25 years ago, they weren't moving the same way. They weren't handling the ball the same way. They weren't getting the rim. You never saw a female dunk, any of that. So, you know, we're in there, we're 19, 20 years old, flying all over the place, blocking shots, throwing alley-oops, and, you know, running fast breaks. And we literally got booed. So, you know, everybody tries to make this comparison. Oh, such and such could play in the NBA. Such and such, you know, is going to be.
Missy used to always give me a hard time. She's like, you know, Shamika would take you down and post you up.
Just saw Shamika.
And I was like, talk about Holtzclaw, amazing player.
Yeah.
She would take you down and dominate you. I was like, no, she wouldn't. Now she could today.
Some of them, if you played, you know, 3 out of 5, best of 5, 1-on-1, Shamika was going to get some games from you.
Okay.
But your average, you know, good, solid D1 player that's not All-American, whatever, they cannot close that gap. But Shamika, yeah, she
we had a time. Shout out to Kate McMahon, Baby Mack, who was a Blount County legend, played for Coach Pat Summit and Lady Vol, and she was going to help us with the basketball camp when you're down at Blount. At William Blount, and she got Alexis Hornbuckle to come. And Alexis was playing against some guys 3-on-3, and I was like, hey, don't hurt her, you know. and I saw her.
They can bang.
Yeah, I saw her go to the baseline and do a reverse pivot, up and under move, and I was like,
Their footwork,
okay.
their footwork,
Yes.
ball handling.
It was.
Now there's guys out there that can ball that, they've got
Right.
ball handling, footwork, and fundamentals that are, top tier. But the team they were playing against, the team I played for, we're not that. We're just good ball players. And, so they were just hands down, like Alexis. They could do stuff with their feet and with the ball that we didn't practice. We didn't know. We weren't familiar with.
I know my producer's going to be like, time, you guys are wearing it out. But let me ask you, so when you go, before we change gears real quick, Pat Head,
mm-hmm.
when you think about if there was one thing or two things that come to mind that not only help you, but that you'd want to pass on to your son, Jaden, just the mindset. Well, obviously, you've already said one,
mm-hmm.
that of all the thousands of people she knows, we'd flag you down and go, David, that's huge,
mm-hmm.
right? But what comes to mind? The preparation, the just command of the room.
Preparation as it translates to excellence. You work on something until it's not so that you can get it right. You work on it until you cannot get it wrong. So
Say that again.
Preparation as it translates to excellence. You work on it, you practice, you run through it in your mind, you talk about it until you cannot get it wrong. A lot of people think I need to practice until I can get this right. No, you practice to the point you cannot get something wrong. You work it through in your mind until you cannot get it wrong. And she approached the smallest things, just every minor detail of everything. And she really taught those young ladies life and to be women and how to be excellent at life and how to approach things in an orderly manner. And kind of that same thing with my grandparents.
And some
that same even keel.
And some young men too.
Yeah, especially us. But when you do that, everything just kind of works itself out to be an even keel. But it's not so much just a Pat Summit thing. It's a basketball thing. The people I met, the relationships I made along the way were just life changing, and I didn't know it at the time. But I've made hundreds of thousands of dollars from people I played basketball with. Doing business with people I play ball with. I've made connections. I've made lifelong friends. So that's one thing that really playing for what evolves really kind of jump started me seeing the writing on the wall. I went and worked basketball camps because of her. I worked her camps. I worked Coach O'Neill's camps. I worked Coach Green's camps. I worked all kinds of camps outside of Knoxville because of Pat Summit.
Not too bad for a Farragut boy.
No, not too bad.
Hey, David Landis. We'll see you guys in the next segment. Awesome, man. Thank you. So excited to bring to you our Homes and Loans podcast series. It's something near and dear to my heart. I know it's going to make a positive impact in your life and someone that you know and care about. I encourage you to share this series with anyone that fits that description. I had the vision of bringing together like-minded people that are positive, that are forced for good, not evil, in different industries, different arenas of business, whether it's educators, entrepreneurs, attorneys, CPAs, financial planners, real estate professionals, and of course, mortgage professionals and beyond. This is just an amazing series. It's going to make a difference. And the idea is that we bring these folks together so that you can enjoy it and get something out of it. And we have 3 basic segments as our format. The first segment is where someone's from. Where were they born, and maybe some childhood memories that they carry to this day. Number 2, their business, how you might be able to reach them, maybe some tips and tricks that gives you a glimpse behind the curtain in what they do that can help you. And of course, how you reach them. And the third, I'm really excited about because that's where the gold nuggets come in. Those nuggets that we all call on to get through adversity. We all face adversity. And we always ask the question, hey, how do you balance your professional and personal life? And we even ask a question, who would you have coffee with? Some historical figure. But the main crux of it is, how do we get through adversity? How do you look at the glass half full and not half empty?
and so many other things. So we encourage you to share this. You can go to homesandloanspodcast.com. That's A-N-D spelled out, homesandloanspodcast.com. And you can see the whole series. Man, we hope you enjoy it. Share this with someone you care about.
All right, I'm back with my brother David Landis. Man, we appreciate you, David. That was a great first segment talking about coming up in Pittsburgh and the sunny skies and a lot of great snow, cold up there.
Snow in Pittsburgh after about 6 hours turns to black slush.
Really?
Because they roll those salt trucks out.
They're on
They
it.
roll those plows out. It's just, it's not pretty like it is.
Baling hay, doing that, coming up, going to ferry, going on up to UT and playing against with the Lady Vols, first-hand seat with Pad Summit.
Greatness.
All that's, greatness. But, man, let's transition. You got out of University of Tennessee. I know you had a short stint coming through school with the best Italian. Shout out to Scott Crawford and Jeff and those guys. But let's talk about getting into your professional life, man. What can we dig in there a little bit?
Well, I accidentally fell into the appraisal industry, home valuations, and it's led to a lot of other stuff. But I was, after college, not really doing anything. In the summer, I'd run around and work basketball camps. And my dad got tired of it. And my dad cut me off because I wasn't making ends meet.
It's not what you do when you graduate. Yeah.
I wasn't making ends meet. My dad, got hip to it and said, that's enough. You probably should find yourself someplace to stay that's not on my dime. And, of course.
Which is true love.
Years later, I went back and I thanked him for that because it's the best decision he ever made. But, so I was in the gym playing ball, and a friend of mine was actually the first person I ever met when I came to Knoxville. We went way back. He was about to go to medical school. He said, hey, I'm about to leave for medical school. My dad's going to need some help because I've been helping him, since I've been out of school. He said, go talk to him. And I knew him, Lewis Homes. And, so I went down their house and, I've been over their house 30 times, so I knew exactly where I was going. Went and sat down with him and said, I need you to go take pictures and go measure out. So, whatever. I figure it's no different than, working at the mall or whatever.
Well, I definitely, and we knew each other before. But I remember Mr. Holmes, he came in, and back in those days, because as you guys know, this is my 25th year in mortgage banking and going into the 26th year, and now we have emails and digital, but back in the day, it was hand-delivered appraisals with the pictures glued on the report, and some people would mail them. Not Mr. Holmes and not David. They would bring, I remember the first time I saw Lewis, he came with a 3-piece suit, shine shoes, cuff links.
Yep.
Wanted to make sure that it was, what a great mentor.
He taught me that business, and I fell into a career. I didn't take it seriously. He probably, tried to run me off 39 times because I didn't have a work ethic. And I did not know how to be serious about work. And he was patient enough and nice enough to bring me along the way. And he and I built his company. He was obviously successful long before I was in the picture. But together we took his company from a small 1, then 2, then 3-person operation to, I think at one point we had 20 people in the company.
Wow.
2 separate offices. I was 23, 24 years old, and I had 50-year-old men call me Mr. Landis every day. Having to come ask me if they could go lunch. And can't say that maturity-wise I was ready for that, but it taught me some things. And absolutely, Lewis Homes taught me how to hustle, taught me how to work, how to be serious about work, and taught me a whole lot about the appraisal industry. And I, by the grace of God, I didn't mess up that opportunity. And then I left and went to work for a guy named Jim Kite. Jim Kite showed me the other side of this industry, which is just as important, but he also showed me that I didn't have to take myself so seriously. So I got a happy medium between what I picked up
Two of the best.
Homes and then, Jim Kite, and God rest his soul. But both of them were huge in my career. When I see Lewis, when I talk to him, I never, ever fail to thank that man. And I talked to him probably beginning of this year, during the snowstorm. This spring, winter, I talked to him, and he seemed to be doing well. So,
How did you come up with the? I think of of course, my practice day was all over the country.
Mm-hmm.
From here to California, and I've heard all kinds of different title companies, appraisal companies, attorney offices. There's no better name than the appraisal firm. How did you come up with that, and what was number two, if you remember? Because this was about, what, 10 years in?
This was spring 2004.
So you had been in the game 8 years?
7
Seven?
years.
Yeah.
97. Spring 97, fall 97, I started with Lewis. So I'd been somewhere and I saw the law firm. It was the law firm. And didn't really make a mental note of it or anything. But when I started my own company, when we were, doing the legwork to do so, I got to thinking, what did I want? I know I needed to start with an A, for immediate recognition, phone books and whatnot. So appraisal was obviously going to be the first word. And then associates, I'd worked for.
So it's actually appraisal firm, not the appraisal firm.
No, it's the appraisal firm.
Okay.
If you look at it, back in the day when you had Yellow Pages, the appraisal firm was still under the A's.
Okay.
So
by default, I got
by
you.
default. So that's basically how I landed there. I was just rattling off names, and I liked it because I'm not one for theatrics. I'm not one to be real flowery or anything like that. And I just liked it because it meant business to me. And it was straight and to the point, and nobody around here had it. Now nationally, I think somebody else had it, but you're going to find 30 advanced appraisals across the country. Appraisal associates, you're going to find 30 of them. But at the time, the name was available with the Secretary of State, so I ran with it.
Dude, that's awesome.
And lo and behold,
was there a number two?
Not that I know of.
Yeah.
But lo and behold, Lewis Homes had introduced me to a guy named Al Green. Al Green, white guy named Al Green.
Not to be confused with the singer.
Exactly. I met him the first year I was working for Lewis, and he was chemical operator at Roman Haas. But he owned all these houses. So Lewis would end up doing appraisals for him for refis when people cashed out back in the day from rent to own. And I met Al, sat there and talked to him for probably a couple hours. And, so I got real close with him, and he ended up selling me his first house, taught me a little bit about doing business and, things to do and stay away from. But anyway, years later, Al Green called me, hey, listen, I'm Dagan's thinking about getting into business. Can you bring him in? And at this time, I had, probably 7, 8 employees. So, yeah, sure, whatever. Dagan comes to work for me. This is right before the crash started, so foreclosure was a big thing. And they got a job opportunity to go work for Bruce Webb, who was a big foreclosure agent and, handled hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, probably thousands of foreclosures throughout the financial crisis. Fast forward later, Dagan starts his own real estate company. Guess what Dagan called his real estate company? It's big in Knoxville now.
The firm.
The real estate firm. Dagan Green is the owner of the real estate firm. And, if you
need a commission off of that.
I tell them all the time. But yeah, so the name stuck. I liked it. Dagan liked it. But I have seen it across the country now. Since then, I didn't really see it back then. But now I do see it. Like if I go try to change email servers, whatever, it's never available anymore. So I know they're out there.
That's awesome.
I like to think that I came up with that.
And so was it doing the math? How many years you had the appraisal firm?
20 years this year.
Congratulations,
Fall this year makes 20 years. It's funny, we started a mortgage company in fall of 2003, and then we started the appraisal company in summer 2004, basically.
Now, Dave, I definitely want to definitely want to at this part of the segment give my guests a chance to look in the camera and say, hey, if you need services for appraisal, this is how you reach me. Obviously, talk a little bit about turning knocks, but before we do that, everyone, I think everybody wants to know what their house is worth. All right, that's one coffee table talk. Everybody's got in the back of their mind. Is there any? I don't know where to go with this because obviously we could have 5 days worth of stuff, but maybe some insight as to what makes value wise people you see these Zillow things, maybe make a comment on that, or their house appraised. What are some of the do's and the don'ts that maybe help that person get the best possible appraisal value, and then let them know how they can reach you for services, because you can. A lot of people don't understand this, but yes, the majority of your work is probably like when I would make an order, a bank would make an order for you, a professional firm from an attorney or whatnot, but private individuals can get appraisal orders. So take a moment and just share a little bit there.
Well, my business has transformed over the past 2 years. It was, 15 years ago, was basically all mortgage broker based or bank based, lender based. But now my clientele is probably only 25% lender based and 75% private individuals, attorneys, probate courts, litigation stuff, things like that, where people call me and say, hey, I've got this going on. We have to have a baseline appraisal, or I need to know what my house is worth to sell it. So I get those phone calls. I'm at that stage in my career where people actually call me or people refer me for stuff like that. And I'm blessed in that regard. But without that, with the changes in the lending industry, I'd be in a lot of trouble. So I've been working very diligently to transform my business to where it's less lender based and more private industry based, private clientele based, I should say. So yes, you can call me directly. You can recommend me to your lender, your attorney, whoever. I'm admitted as an expert witness in most courts to talk about home values and how different things impact home values. And
what number would they call, or what email would they use, Dave?
I'm at 865-660-6860. That's 865-660-6860.
And that's the cell phone. He's taking care of you guys.
That's my cell number. Call or text there. And my email is my company name, theappraisalfirm@charter.net. But yeah, so I started litigation work back. I was doing small portions of it here and there, but my biggest was when the ash spill happened down in Rome County, the TVA Swan Pond plant, when the ash spill ruptured, and TVA was buying out homeowners, and there was a class of homeowners that weren't bought out, but their property values were negatively impacted. And there was a big, firm out of Seattle, Washington that was brought in, that once they have baseline, they had their own calculations to come up with the value loss. So what they had me do was go in and I did all the appraisals for that class action lawsuit against TVA. And that kind of really got my feet wet as far as litigation and private.
How many units was that? Do you remember?
It was the better part of probably 100.
Wow.
And business was slow because of the crash, and that basically sustained us that year. And then ever since then, about once a year, I'll get a big estate. Irene, the gentleman I mentioned earlier, unfortunately a good friend, he passed away this winter, this past February, I guess. And I appraised his estate, and that was 80 some odd properties. Last year I did a gentleman down here, he had passed away. He had a bunch of properties down here in southwest Blount County, Greenback. And I think that was 70 something appraisals just for the estate. So I do a lot of stuff like that. When people's family members die and the estate needs, a fair valuation for division of assets, divorce cases, all that.
So Dave, let me ask you, so everybody jumps on Zillow or they want to know what this and that. Outside of a clean house as much as possible. Obviously, there's some situations where they just can't do it, hoarding situations or whatever. But is there any rules of thumb or any advice you give somebody that wants to try to, get the best possible appraisal, or is it doesn't really matter?
It matters to an extent. There are things that you can't change, location, size, style, whatnot. But there are there is a very long list of things that you can do to improve aesthetic appeal, curb appeal, interior appeal, whatever, to make your house show its, put its best foot forward. Whether it's taking care of all the, what we call deferred maintenance, the honeydews. You got a broken light fixture, you got, chipped paint all over your front porch and everything's flaking off, broken doorknobs, stuff like that. All that little stuff, there is no appraiser out there in the world that can say, your appraisal is $500 less because you got a hole in your drywall right here in your sheetrock. Johnny got mad and punched a hole in the wall. Mom told him no. But, collectively, you've got a bunch of stuff like that going on. Collectively, that does add up to a condition issue. So the more things that you take care of and keep maintained and in tip-top shape, the better off you're going to be as far as if you're looking for, the maximum value of your house. We go in it and we don't look at personal property, trash, dishes, dust, and all that. But an abundance of those things, an abundance of uncleanliness, all that stuff kind of snowballs to the back where we can't see past it. Not that we don't want to, but physically can't see past it to see the true attributes of the home.
Like what's on the other side of the wall is you got a whole room full of stuff. What's on the back side of it? You see mold, you see holes, whatever.
And what the primary basis for appraisals, for most appraisals, is comparison. And we're looking at these other houses that have sold, hopefully as similar and as locationally similar to yours. We're looking at those things to see how your house compares to those that have sold. And when those people sell their houses and they're in the MLS, 99 times out of 100, the people that sell their house, they're doing everything they can to maximize their value. So they're taking care of all that stuff. And you look at the pictures and everything looks in place, everything looks well taken care of and orderly. And then we go into your house to do an appraisal and things don't match up. So automatically we're trying to draw a comparison.
Speaking of comps.
Yeah.
Comparing apples and oranges.
Yeah, so we're trying to draw a comparison from these homes that have sold to your house. And your house, yes, it's theoretically the same, but it's not been maintained. Or you've got just junk everywhere and the walls are dirty and, there's dishes, not just a few dishes in the sink, but just piled up. You can't even see the sink and the counters. That kind of stuff. You and I both seen those houses. Then it's hard to draw those comparisons to the nicer homes out of those comparable sales that we're looking at. So
let me ask you this: 20 years plus in real estate. If my math is right, it's almost 3 decades.
Mm-hmm.
Is this a fair statement? One really doesn't know. Even the best appraiser in the world can't determine value. The only time you really know the value is what somebody's willing to give and what somebody's willing to take.
Yeah.
Okay, challenge that. Tell me why that's not true.
Well, because I can historically prove what it should be worth on paper. Bottom line, I've got the analytics, I've got the professional knowledge, the expertise to say, perfect world, equally motivated buyers and sellers, cash equivalent sale. This house should sell for XYZ, and it should be within a range. Okay, I wish banks would let us appraise at a range. They don't. Some courts will, and private individuals will. I'll say, hey, your house is worth between $90,000 and $95,000. They're happy with that. Banks don't want that. But what happens is, the people go to Zillow and they say, oh, it's worth, $500,000. Well, going to Zillow is tantamount to going to WebMD when you got a pimple, but then you keep reading WebMD. Oh, maybe you got skin cancer. Maybe you're going to die in 3 weeks. That accuracy from a person looking at data on Zillow or Trulia or whatever is that, Redfin, whatever else is out there. A person being able to take that data and apply it to their personal situation. Keep in mind, WebMD, pimple. Being able to take that information, apply it to what's going on physically with themselves. That actually takes a professional. And for that reason, you go to a dermatologist, and for that reason, you call an expert like myself to see if and how those things apply to your world, your house. And I tell people all the time, when Zillow actually gets something right, it's more of an accident than a credit to their accuracy.
Well, I'm gonna tell you, Dave, I'm not just saying it, you're the best I've ever known, and I appreciate you, man. This man's helped
I've got
me.
a lot of experience.
You've helped me, man, a ton. I can remember dealing with an appraiser out in California, and I need to come up with a narrative of how to, work against this appraiser. And you just been there, man. You just do a
I
great
tell
job.
people all the time, I may not have the correct answers all the time, but I do have 25 years worth of opinions.
Yeah, you do.
That's work. I do have 25
So
years.
look, we got to mention your wife, Yvanka Landis. What amazing real estate agent she is and businesswoman. But take a moment, talk about Turning Knocks and how someone, because I'm excited as I can be about this. I think it's awesome for you.
First off, let me back up a step or two, three. My wife is, I give all honor and glory to God first, but my wife is the driving reason of everything that I've accomplished in my life. I cannot stress that enough. I got sick. She's the only reason I'm alive. I wholeheartedly believe that. But where I am business-wise, where I am as a family, where we are as a family, is all attributable to her. And I don't think it's a coincidence that my wife and your wife are cousins. So y'all didn't realize this. Lauren and I, technically, by marriage, we're cousins. So I attribute so much because she is so amazing. And through that amazement, she's been a serial entrepreneur. It was her idea for us to open the companies years ago. And I guess we always knew we would open our own companies, but she's the one that really pushed us to make that jump. And along the way throughout the years, she has been key as to, I might have these notions, I might be able to lead us one way or the other, but she's been that even keel, and everything goes back to that even keel. But she's been that in my life. And she comes up with so many of these business ideas. I've got a myriad of reasons to tell her no, because most of them I don't see it. It's going to be too much. We can't handle it as a family, physically, mentally, financially, whatever. She comes up with this idea for Turning Knocks Rental. And I'm like, oh God, here we go. What can I think of to give her a reason not to do this? And I thought, and I kicked it around and I kicked it back and forth and back and forth.
Party rentals, right? Many kind of things, snow cone machines, and
I could not come up.
Selfie stations.
I could not come up with a reason not to start this business with her. So with her and my daughter, and a little bit, my son's still 15. We started this party rental business. We have selfie station, 360 photo booths. We have photo backdrops. We have pop-up movie theaters, pop-up bars, all kinds of party entertainment stuff, food concessions machines, wedding decor as far as display trolleys, all kinds of stuff, cold spark machines, fog machines, snow machines, all this stuff that my wife spent hours and hours researching, seeing if there's a market, finding the best equipment out there, figuring out how to market this stuff, which she's pretty much a genius when it comes to that. So, if you see
and
us
big time
out there,
accounts.
Yeah.
I've seen University of Tennessee and some other things are really getting there.
One thing that my wife was very ahead of the curve on was who to target business-wise, so that this doesn't appear to be a side hustle. Nothing that we've ever done has been a side hustle. And this, well, if this is your part. No, every one of our companies is a full-time job, and we don't treat this any different. And we've been able to partner with some amazing organizations, corporations, schools, because of the fact we don't treat it like some guy showing up with a pickup truck.
And you got an amazing website that actually gives some pictures and how can they reach you that way?
That's easily turningknocksrental.com. Turning Knox Rental, KNOX, knoxrental.com. You can see 90% of our products there. A lot of stuff, you can find us on Instagram and Facebook. And a lot of the stuff, you'll find videos and pictures of it out in the real world use. We've got an inflatable bubble dome. We don't do inflatables as a whole, but this inflatable bubble dome, it's great for kids to play in, but it's also a great photo opportunity. And that thing's been all over East Tennessee. It's been on the field at Neyland Stadium. It's been everywhere.
And if people if they call you or they don't see what they want or they're looking for, just call you, right? Just ask you about it.
We have, for some of our bigger clients, they say, have y'all thought about doing this? We've been thinking about this. And I'll look into it, and if it's fundamentally sound, we've gone out and we've bought things based on our clients' needs. So we try to cater to these people that are running these events and these people that really just want to make a splash and make their events different. And we try to take the stress out of it. Basically, you call us, you don't have to think about that part of your event anymore. You just know that somebody's going to show up.
And I can attest to that.
Somebody's going to show up professionally. They're going to be, dressed. They're not going to be in somebody's pickup truck. They're going to be in a company car, company van, whatever. And it's like hiring no different than hiring a big tent rental company. We're going to show up. We're going to take care of that part of your event for you, and you don't have to think about it again.
Good stuff,
our
man.
feedback has been great. She's got hundreds, well over 100 5-star Google reviews. I just can't speak highly enough of her and my daughter and the way they approach this business and the strides that they've made, basically to something that's, as a whole, is new to NOS. So parts of it are not new, but as a whole, this company is a new business to NOS.
That's awesome. Hey, the appraisal firm, 865-660-6860, and turningknox.com.
Knox Rental.
Turningknoxrental.com. And again, shout out Yvanka, love you. And we'll be right back with our final segment with David Scott Landis.
Hey folks, I just want to take a moment and thank you for looking at our podcast. I hope you're enjoying it. We truly have enjoyed putting it together for you. And I want to take just a moment to talk about the Lauren Riddick team, Homes and Loans. My mortgage practice has been going around for over 25 years at the time that we're putting this together. And I'm so proud of that. We've been able to help clients and referral partners all over the country. Texas, California, Colorado, Washington State, Florida, everywhere in between. And of course, our beloved home here in the East Tennessee Smoky Mountains area. I love helping our clients. Whether it's a home or a loan, we'd love to help you. Now, my mortgage practice specializes in traditional forward lending, whether you need VA, FHA, rural development, conventional, we absolutely can help you. But I want to take a moment to talk about something near and dear to my heart, the often misunderstood, wildly popular home equity conversion mortgage, reverse mortgage. Now that's available for folks that are 62 years or better, for yourself or someone that you know that you care about, that needs to know about this amazing program. Whether you want to use it as a leverage point to give warm-handed gifts instead of cold-handed gifts, live more independently, and make sure that you're not burdening your family, or just put together a line of access that you can use for down the road that has unbelievable benefits. Love to share with you more about this amazing program. And just in short, how cool would it be to have an optional payment that did not have to get paid back until up to 1 year after you pass away, or up to 150 years of age? Be pretty cool. Therefore, letting the house owe the debt and not you. It's been over 1 million facilitated since Ronald Reagan got behind in the late 80s, including my beloved parents, Jim and Edna Riddick. Hey, if you want to know more, go to reversewisdom.com. That's reversewisdom.com. There's a lot of good information. Or just reach out. We'd love to share more about this amazing program or some of our more traditional mortgage products. Of course, real estate as well through my lovely wife, Missy.
Man, this has been great. Dave, man, I so appreciate you taking time. We talked about coming up to Pittsburgh and your time at UT and all that kind of stuff. And then, of course, your amazing career.
I got to back up, y'all. I'm going to cut this man off. Fall of 1991, I'm working at a pizza shop, y'all. Delivering pizzas and eating pizzas and just really kind of screwing off. This cat comes in. Big old, I can't remember, parka type, I can't remember if it was fur or what, hoodie. or maybe it may have been a 3/4 length leather coat back then. They were big. We used to sport those. Comes in talking to my boss, who at the time was running this pizza company. He was only 21, 22, something like that at the time, maybe 23. Like, man, who is this cat? Comes in, they talk, whatever, chop it up. In the back of my mind, he's there, whatever. Years down the road, I meet this guy doing business in the appraisal world, and we get to talking and figure out who we know in common, and figure out that's that guy that came in the pizza shop 10, 12 years ago. And y'all, ever since then, Lauren and I have been tight, been brothers. He's been there for me. He's been there for my family. And that he's just one of the people that my life would be so much different, and not in a good way, if I did not know him.
Oh man, thank you, brother.
Thank you,
I
brother.
love you. I appreciate you,
I love
man. That's a good segue because this segment talks about adversity, and no one dealt with more adversity than this man. He had a medical emergency. Dave, you might want to tell a little bit about your story, but I just again through Ivanka, good Lord above blessing him, a bunch of friends coming together. You were in a coma for 47 days. I remember right?
3 months, I think.
3 months. 3 months. And so Dave, touch on that what you'd want to, but this part is, how do you get through adversity? When you're facing adversity, how do you get through that? To me, this is really the favorite part of my segment because it's going to help somebody, right? We all have to deal with adversity, and then before we get out of here, I'm going to ask you who you'd want to have coffee with, some historical figure, and what would you talk about? But let's talk about that. How do you get through adversity, and touch on what you want to?
Well, I did not realize it, but everyday life prepares you for adversity. You can either run from it, or run to it, or walk through it. And I think that the way I was raised and the things that I'd been through up until the point where I got sick, I had learned to, and I was walking through it. As in, things would happen up, down, good, bad, whatever, just kind of kept the pace and go through it. Unfortunately, life has a way of breaking your step, breaking your stride. And in 2013, life broke my stride. I knew that I had pancreatitis, but the one time I've been in the hospital for before, the ER doc was one of my neighbors, and our kids played ball together. So we didn't really talk about what was going on with my body and what I needed to do, blah, blah, blah. They probably said a little bit here, whatever, but nothing great.
Right.
And I don't blame him, because I probably didn't take it very seriously, because I was walking through it. But pancreatitis is very serious. Did not know that. Deadly even. Did not know that. So fast forward a year, 18 months, whatever later, and I started having another pancreatitis attack. I know this. I can tell the symptoms are the same. I know that what they did in the hospital for me when I went to the hospital was cleaned up my diet. I didn't quite go clear liquids like they did in the hospital. And ibuprofen, because pancreatitis basically is the aggravation and swelling of your pancreas. And so that's going on. I'm having a pancreatitis attack. I'm not going to the hospital. I'm not stopping work. I've got employees, I've got a company, family, whatever. Young child at the time, 3 years old, I think. And so I start self-medicating. I took the ibuprofen. I stopped eating the junk that I should never have been, eating as much of in the first place. And I did that for 6 weeks. The last week was so bad, probably the last 10 days to 2 weeks was so bad, I didn't want to drive anywhere because I was in so much pain, I couldn't move quickly. And I didn't want to have to react, when you're driving. So I didn't tell my wife while she was driving, but she would drive, or it was during the day, I had my assistant drive me around. And I remember being up in Sevierville, walking a property, being almost doubled over in pain. Still didn't get wise and go to the doctor like I should have. And then like the next day after that, I had to drop my daughter off. She was going through her real estate classes at the time, and her car didn't have air conditioning. It was hot. So I said, I'll take you. And I was bad off. I remember sweating, and my daughter Adrian will tell you I was pale, green, gray, whatever. And she, unbeknownst to me, had called my wife, hey, Dad's serious. Time to do something. So I got back to my office, and my wife had a closing that day. And I was like, I'm not going to keep you from your closing. I'll get my assistant to take me over to the ER. I'll go. And I threw a fit that she was going to not go to her closing. I was like, no, go. So she put me in the car with my assistant. My assistant drove me to the ER. My wife just basically tricked me. She got in the car and drove to the ER right behind us. That's just who my wife is. And within 24 hours of being at the hospital, my wife had gone home to take a shower. We figured I'd be there a couple of days like the time I'd been there before. And while she was home, her friend was at the house with her. And they called her phone. The hospital called her phone. And my wife was in the shower, and they said, tell her to call us. It's an emergency. My wife called, and she said, and they told her, if we don't put him on life support right now, he's not going to make it. And she said,
Everything's shutting down.
Yeah, she said, do what you got to do. So I was in a medically induced coma from that point on for, I think, the better part of 3 months. My triglycerides, bad cholesterol, are supposed to be 150 to 180 on the high end. Mine were 6,600. And they basically had killed my pancreas. And my pancreas was dying inside of me and spewing poison to all my other organs in my abdomen. Liver shut down, kidney shut down, one of my lungs deflated. Lord knows all this because he was right there with me the whole way.
Have you forgiven me for when you were in your coma and I painted your toenails?
I still don't know that. But so lo and behold, I laid in the hospital for a total of 5.5 months. They ended up taking out my pancreas. When I went in for that surgery, I was given a 9% chance of survival.
9.
9. No 0, no 19, 9. So, in all things aside, I'm not supposed to be here today. I'm here by the grace of God and the care of my family and friends that were there for me while I was in the hospital. My wife, from that moment they called her and said they were putting me on life support, my wife never left the hospital. If you've ever had a relative that needs long-term care at a hospital, nurses can't do it all. You have to have somebody there that's going to advocate and fight for you and see about you.
Yes.
Because
shift changes, they got so much going on, they're spread thin.
They don't have what it takes to give you that kind of one-on-one attention. Hospitals aren't meant for that. They're not built that way. You have to have somebody there to advocate for you. My wife was that.
And again, shout out to Yamaka because, honey, I remember she actually made part of the waiting room her office.
Yep.
She brought her little desk, had a computer, and she's running real estate.
From Park West Hospital. So there were things medically that happened that my wife caught. There were decisions that were made that if my wife hadn't done the research, that the hospital would have made as a normal standard course of procedure, that did not happen, and I got a better level of care, better standard of care, because my wife was there intervening on my behalf. And I would not have, I never would have made it home. Got home from the hospital the day before Thanksgiving in 2013. I barely could talk, wasn't doing anything. And I went for a doctor's follow-up 2 weeks later, and right across the street from Park West Hospital where my surgeon was. And they were taking forever to get me back, and I basically was crashing in their lobby. My wife made the decision to just leave from that doctor's appointment. She wheeled me across the street, and I was wearing pajamas at the time, you know that. Wheeled me across the street to the emergency room, and my blood pressure was 60/40. I was literally dying that day again. Throughout the whole stay, I think I died and was resuscitated 3 times. And, my wife's resolution just brought me through and her. And she doesn't know. She's not medically versed in any of this. She just learned it. And then, you were there. And I could not do anything for myself. Doesn't matter how much money you have. Doesn't matter what you got. When you're laying in that bed, you can't do anything. It's the grace of God and the grace of your friends and family around you.
One thing I do remember about that, Dave, is I remember knowing you, knowing how much the walls had to be closing in on you because you wanted to be, and I brought an appraisal for you to look at. I already knew the answers, didn't really even need it, but I needed to get something in your hands to make those wheels start turning and get you out of that. And what was remarkable is that you flipped the switch and went right to the answers to the test, like you do it, and it was just good.
Physically, if you lay in bed physically for 5-6 months like that, physically your body wastes. I couldn't hold up an iPad. Like when I finally came to, I wanted to do something in the hospital. I wanted my iPad. I couldn't hold my iPad up. It made me too tired, so I had to do everything on my phone. But anyway, so you're in all kinds of bad headspace, and it's a fog. I call it coma brain. I still have side effects from it, but back then it was real heavy. From the drugs they give you to keep you in that coma and the pain meds and all that. And you brought that appraisal to me. And I legit, Lauren told me that he had a problem with an appraisal somebody else did. Blah, blah, blah. Here, I need you to look at this for me. I look at it. I don't remember what I said, but I do remember looking at the appraisal. I found out 6-8 months later, y'all just wanted to see if my brain was working.
Well, I knew it was working. So let me ask you, when you before that, after that, what do you call on internally? I know part of it probably has to be that even keel that you saw your grandparent do, but what do you call on to get you through when it's just all coming at you? How do you get through the next day?
Well,
besides they can't eat you.
They can't eat that. You don't understand how often I go back there. That was huge. You don't know it.
It's my Uncle Kevon, man.
My wife and I talk about that. I used that with Adrian a couple weeks ago. That's big. But obviously, I know why I'm here first and foremost. That's it. So my prayer life is strong. My spiritual walk with my family is strong. And I don't center that around church. I center that around me, my family, and God. And we're able to do a ton of good work in this community based on that. But it's all, at the end of the day, boils down to God and what God has done, what God can do, and what God will do according to His Word, number one. Number two, my family. My dad gave my wife some advice one time when we had some things going on that we needed some advice on. And my dad stressed the importance of the 4 walls. The 4 walls are your household. You can invite people in, you can put people out, but these are your 4 walls. They come before everything. So you retreat back to within your 4 walls, and you handle what has to be handled within your 4 walls. That's been big. And my wife went and talked to my dad and brought that back, and we really applied that to our lives. But as far as running through that adversity, it comes from the experience of knowing what I've come through, and it comes from knowing what I need to do for my family. And if you follow God's word, the natural order of things, God first, family, work, the church, family, church, the work, whatever. If you follow God's word and you apply it, you know that you have to do these things. And you reach an age where you stop caring about what other people think your was and whatnot. And it all boils down to, what do I need to do for my family, for my 4 walls? So basically, at the end of the day, keep that even stride on the outside. Inside those 4 walls, you do whatever you have to do to run through it. My wife did whatever she had to do to make sure she came home with a living husband. I came home, I couldn't walk, I couldn't do anything basic. I couldn't do anything by myself. Had to be lifted around. Lauren came and lifted me, did physical therapy with me. But I learned that you lean on what's inside your 4 walls, and thank God you were there to come inside our 4 walls when you were invited. But yeah, those 4 walls, you do any and everything for those 4 walls. And one thing I've learned coming through that, they started a blood drive for me because my blood supply was replenished 4 times over, more than 4 times over while I was in the hospital. If you've never given blood, Medic will charge you and this was 2013, $500 a unit, not to mention what the hospital charges.
To
so
administer it.
Yeah. So it would have been over $20,000 just in blood, not the administration of it. So my wife and some of her colleagues had a blood drive that first year while I was still in the hospital. And everybody says, well, when you live through something like that, God kept you here for a reason. And you kind of in the back of your mind think that, okay, I'm still here for a reason. I've got this purpose. And I'm going to hear this hallelujah chorus. When I figure out what my purpose is. It's not. It's just you keep doing. You keep doing for yourself. You keep doing for your family. And what I've learned through this is you've got your four walls. But I think it was Muhammad Ali said that our rent for our time here on earth is doing for other people. So what can you do that doesn't benefit anybody within inside your four walls? It's not to get public admiration. It's not, to get this business connection. Nobody within my four walls, within my circle, is going to benefit from this. Somebody outside is going to benefit from it. Let me get into that work. Let me do that dirty work. Let me get my hands dirty outside of my four walls, outside of my sphere of influence, to where I'm actually doing for others.
That's awesome.
And if you keep it tight, and I do for Lauren, well, Lauren's already in my circle. I'm doing for my people. I'm building up my world. No, you need to build up the world outside of you. So when you stop focusing on what you're going through, when you stop, you got to focus on it, but when you stop only seeing that and start seeing the bigger picture, other things tend to fall into place.
Man,
and
that's
that's one thing that I've learned. My wife and I have championed some great nonprofit causes and charities outside of our normal sphere of influence. Emerald Youth Foundation is one. She's done stuff with the now no longer local Susan G. Komen, but back when it was local. All kinds of child help, Second Harvest, all kinds of things. And those are not areas that before I got sick that we really focused on. And our blood drive, we've grown that to the largest one-day blood drive in the state, regardless, and the largest non-corporate blood drive, regardless of how many days people try to do it. It's the largest non-corporate blood drive in the state. And no other family outside of their crisis has continued to come back and hold these drives and do it just for the greater good. I'm alive because of blood donated, blood transfusion that I got, and those, if it hadn't been for the people that donated that blood, I wouldn't have lived. So there's a myriad of reasons why I'm still here, but one of those reasons is the blood, and I'm happy to be able to pay that forward. So that's part of my purpose. But I've learned through that my purpose is outside of my four walls.
And wow, right, Joe? Huh? David Landis, my brother. Can't let you go to ask you the question. If you could have coffee with any historical figure, known or not known, who would it be and what would you talk about?
I got to throw some out there.
Okay.
Obviously, with what I do.
Just for the people that don't know.
Yeah, MJ.
Michael Jordan.
That's off top. And Arnold Palmer. Arnold Palmer. He's from Pittsburgh.
Okay.
The things I've read and the clips I've seen, the interviews, he just kind of somebody that was.
What would you talk to Jordan about, and what would you talk to Arnold about?
Jordan part of it would be some things I probably wouldn't talk about on this show.
Okay.
And then obviously some things about the mentality and acumen and the drive, because that's what sets him apart. That's why he's the GOAT. I would look into the camera. That's why he's the GOAT, because of the drive and the mentality.
Right.
So I would get into that with him. Arnold Palmer, I just want to hear stories about his life, how he grew up, and golf course stories. I can't play anything else other than golf, and I barely do that these days. So that whole world fascinates me. And then there's a host of people in my family that I did not get to know as an adult that I would love to know. you know, first and foremost, I'm taking my dad with me anywhere.
Right.
I'm taking my biological dad with me just because
Right.
I never really got to know him.
Right.
And then, you know, aunts, uncles, all these people that are interesting to me now, but I did not know because I was younger. I did not know their importance. And not to minimize their importance, but I was unaware of who they really were and things that really mattered to them that I would love to get into with them. And you know, those names don't mean anything, but definitely there's a host of relatives that I would get into it with and chop it up with.
Well, Dave, look, man, your heart is big as the world. I've always known that. I really appreciate you taking time to sow into the greater good. It's my biggest wish that, you know, through we've had well over 28 of these interviews. Yavanka was kind enough to come, and I don't know if there's a better one than what you just laid today. And I appreciate you, man. I love you.
I love you, man. It's the good people I got around me.
David Landis,
I
the
appreciate
appraisal firm and TurningKnoxRental.com and so many other things, man. We love you and we thank you and appreciate you, man.
I'm glad to be anywhere today.
Yes, sir. Love you, man.
Love you.